I just don't think is an accurate depiction of what masculinity is, or what it has always been.
Because a man is a man that keeps his family fed, that knows the difference between flesh and stone, making something.
Hey guys, welcome back to Cultivating Harmony. Today we're going to be talking about femininity and masculinity, and we're going to do that under kind of like a Chinese medicine lens in reference to yin and yang. So I hope you stick around all the way to the end, and I am looking forward to seeing the comments once you have completed the video. So I want to give the little disclaimer that this conversation is more directed towards those who are already in a safe, healthy marriage or relationship. So hopefully you've already checked out my yin and yang video. If you haven't yet, go ahead and do that. That really kind of gives you the definitions, or I guess the barriers of what is yin and what is yang, just to, get you up to speed on what that is. And then, I'm sure most of us are familiar with the yin yang symbol, right? And so that is basically a visual representation of what yin and yang is. To simplify it very quickly, yin is considered female and yang is considered masculine or male. So things that are feminine or female are things such as rest, being intuitive, kind of that receiving or receptive role, where yang is more outgoing, it's doing, it's action, movement, motion. Just as a few examples. And I hear so much today that, we need to find balance in ourselves, balance in masculinity, balance the femininity in ourselves. I find that more often than not, it's actually more of a justification for women to display actually more yang or masculine conduct or behavior. And, much less so necessarily than about being balanced. Now, I want to kind of, reintroduce the idea that in Chinese medicine, there's no right or wrong, because it's not religious in the sense that, there's a morality tied to it of, you should do things this way, or you need to do things this way or that way to appease a godhead necessarily. I find, Chinese medicine is really more about the observation of what is, right? And finding the patterns or cycles within, what is, to understand our own experiences. There's no real doctrine or dogma about what being, a man or woman is, but more about finding what nature demonstrates, what being masculine or feminine is. So I'm really going to be focusing on what femininity and female is, since that is my own experience, and let the men handle their side. In today's society, we really have this negative connotation towards being weak, or, just towards weakness itself. We hear all the time, women are strong, and we can do this, and we can do that, and, of course, women, especially, in today's society in America, we can do whatever we want. I understand where, women want to say, well, women are strong too, and they can do things, and, I can see it from both sides, really. But, I kind of want to pose the question of, yes, women most of the time can do what a man can do, but, should we do what a man can do? And you can say that vice versa. Is it really optimal use of our own energy to take on the yang or masculine role? If I'm going to expend, 10 times the amount of my energy to move a bookshelf, then it will for a man. Is that really optimal use of my own energy, or is my energy and my time better spent doing something else that would maybe be more work for a man to do, right? So weakness is really just considered something bad and even useless. And mainstream ideals, we don't really value the yin or feminine characteristics at all. We really only give value, especially, in the more modernized countries, of these very yang, linear, qualities of improving, achieving, maximizing, this forever just, we're going to improve and we're going to make more money year over year over year. This very, yang, aggressive, conquering, improving, and increasing is only really one side to the coin. One of the core principles that you learn from Chinese medicine is that everything in life is cyclical, and I mean everything. Nature itself is cyclical, right, with the seasons and things. But one thing that we often forget is that we are part of nature, and so that means that in turn that we are also cyclical. This very yang heavy society, everyone wants to be a boss, a go-getter, the initiator. Everyone wants to be on top. Like to remember that, yang is also associated with hot or heat. And I find personally that with such a yang heavy society like this, that people are just getting burnt out from this kind of conduct, honestly. I think that collectively this constant, fight or battle to the top hasn't really necessarily served us in the best way in terms of, health and well-being. Can we also ask ourselves then, is there any value in yin or yin qualities or femininity or, being female? Is there any value in resting, retreating, reflecting? Can we have a real conversation about femininity or being female, and it is yin or feminine to be weak? Is that a bad thing? Is being a woman and being weak, is that a bad thing? And if so, why? Even more so, a huge, taboo word these days is submission. Submission or submitting, right, to your husband or whatever is, such a controversial word, and, it's very often attributed to, like, this very, Christian biblical concept. I feel that it really brings on these, like, polar opposites of reactions where, there's people who, they agree with it, and that's fine, the Christians and stuff. And then there's, like I said, this other polar opposite where it is just, like I said, very taboo. It's controversial. It is like the dirtiest word you could use. You don't want to be a submissive woman. Like, it's very, rejected in today's culture of women, mainstream. But again, why? Why is that? I don't want to rile up the feminists too much, but, really, if we're speaking in terms of yin and yang and looking at what qualities or, what characteristics are under each one, submission is a feminine one. And like I said, I think not even just in Christianity, it's been in many probably religions and cultures, right? That has been the woman's role, and it is not welcome today. One of the things, and I just want to throw that out there really quickly and not get too deep into it, but I think one reason today it's so, rejected is that, they have this concept of masculinity is only, associated with, abuse of power and things like that. A purposely misled connotation or conception. So again, I just kind of want to reiterate that, there's no morality tied to yin and yang or to feminine and masculine. Chinese medicine doesn't say that you have to act like this or you should act like this. It's just saying what is feminine and what is masculine, or what is yin and what is yang. So, we don't need to get too caught up in, I guess, political games of it, if you will. One thing that has always plagued me with confusion, and I see some other people speaking up on it, is modern or third wave feminists and their notion of femininity and masculinity, what they promote in terms of, ideals. I see very often that today's feminists will promote or, be very active in pushing these very masculine or yang traits for women to have. And whether that's getting a career or buying a house or driving a car or, whatever, that's really maybe not the whole story. Where are the feminists who are promoting and pushing for it being acceptable for women to not have careers, not get a higher education and leave the home, and wanting to stay home and raise their children, raise their families full time, and that being, a positive influence on our society? Is modern, mainstream society pushing for women to have these very masculine traits actually helping us as women, or could it possibly be, damaging us or hindering us? Are we happier and healthier women today than we were 100, 500, 1,000 years ago? Women are yin, right? They are just naturally more yin. There's no other way about it. Is it our best, is it the best use of our skills or our energy to try to then ignore our yin or feminine skills or traits, characteristics, and really try to champion, right, these more yang or masculine traits? Is it the best use of our energy or our time, or is it most fulfilling for us to, spend all this time achieving higher education, spending 4 to 12 years outside of the K through 12 to get that degree, get that recognition, and then to subsequently go into a career field, which then we need to spend a lot of time and dedicate a lot of our energy towards climbing the ranks and whatnot. Today, there is so much pushback still with women wanting to, stay home, get married, be a wife, make a home, raise a family. It isn't totally acceptable for women to want to demonstrate or display these very yin or feminine qualities of being housewives, homemakers. I think a lot of housewives or homemakers can relate that, get the constant questioning of, well, what are you going to do once the kids are in school? When are you going to put them in daycare? When are you going to free up your time? When are you going to go back to school? Are you going to go back and do a career? When are you going to... And all it really boils down to, screaming, is that when are you going to go back to actually doing something with your life? I know it's often meant by well-meaning people, but they don't really always realize how arrogant or rude these types of questions or comments can be. Now, I'm not throwing shade at these people because these are, like I said, well-meaning friends or even family, because it really poses this perspective that, being a homemaker, being a wife or a mother, or these things, aren't really doing anything or contributing to society in a meaningful way. I'm not achieving enough. I'm not doing enough with my potential. Things like that. Like I said, it's a very, very arrogant place to come from. And it's really something I think that is worth investigating and kind of reflecting on. We have such a materialistic society, unfortunately, in modern mainstream times. We want that recognition. We want that degree on the wall. We're willing to trade in 4 to 12 years of our lives to, get the letters on the end of our names, or, trading in hours and hours of our life and our youth and really our health, our well-being to achieve certificates. And like I said, these very materialistic, physical, easy ways to measure, our worth as, a human or as a person and our contribution to our society. So I want to say, just as it's not really acceptable or a positive thing for a woman to display these yin or feminine qualities, I want to say that it's maybe even less acceptable for men to say that they desire these qualities in a partner. They dare say that, they want a future wife that's going to stay home and raise the kids and not have a career, right? He's a misogynist. That toxic masculinity, the, oppressive male, head of household kind of figure that has been kind of ingrained in us, at least, for the last few generations. It's kind of the same thing again. It's like, if we believe in equality and we believe in all these things, then why can men not express what they want in a partner? Because I do find more often than not that a man will not share openly that he wants a very feminine wife because, or very yin, very attacked and looked down upon. It's not something that's championed in our culture. And on the same hand, men are not encouraged to have masculine or yang traits at all. I feel like it's this big thing of men, they need to be in touch with their feelings and in touch with their feminine side. They need to be emotional and nurturing and all these things that are, traditionally yin or feminine. But they are not encouraged to seek or display masculine traits because, according to our current mainstream ideals, is that masculinity is bad, period. It's not good. It's aggression. It's, hyperactivity, right? We think about 90s and 2000s whole, epidemic of these hyperactive boys, trying to make them sit still and concentrate for hours and hours on end when, yang is movement, it's motion, it's activity. It is yang or masculine to be logical, protecting, providing. Why can't we just be who we are naturally inclined to be? And unfortunately, I find that even that gets so twisted in today's world because we are so influenced by other people, other institutions, and other agendas. Left alone in nature, what are we? Who are we? What is masculine? What is feminine? What is our natural inclination? without these outside forces, right? And that's kind of what, like I said, yin and yang is and what Chinese medicine looks at. So what a lot of this says to me is that we just don't value femininity. We don't value true yin. Like I said, not the kind of twisted feminist of today, but what is that true yin and true yang? And I want to stay focused on yin and femininity today because that's my experience. And there are a lot of, great guys out there that are trying to do the work on masculinity. And I want to also point out that, taking anything to either extreme, right, is not good. You're going to see basically issues arise when you're, extreme one way or the other. It's kind of the whole idea of taking the middle path or, just staying more moderate. This constant productivity, boss babe, achieving, conquering your competition. This attitude is really not sustainable to live optimally. Like I said, everything in Chinese medicine is based off of cycles. And again, it's not the idea that women are not strong or smart or capable or useful. It's just that they are strong or better at different type of activities, and activities that are considered yin is their strength. If we were truly pro-women or pro-feminine, real feminists, wouldn't we be exalting and prizing feminine or yin characteristics and traits, not just placing value on those masculine yang traits of increasing and attacking and productivity? I did this whole video because I really do believe that it starts with us as women. It's something that we have to take back, especially, like I said, with the men who are trying to speak out on these types of things. They're really being attacked. I think they're kind of at the short end of the stick on this, especially in our times, because it's an uphill battle for them. At the core of it, it's like if we can't respect, honor, and value ourselves and who we truly are here right now, then how can we expect anyone else to honor or value us? We need to open the door to these types of discussions. We need to be talking about this as women. Women are actually not competitive in terms of yin and yang. Competition is a masculine or a yang trait. Women naturally want to work together, and something we don't see at all, honestly, in our culture today. We want to say, oh yeah, women, strong women support strong women and things like that. We say that, but that's not how we actually behave. So I just really want to encourage the open conversation of these types of things. And also just give another perspective. Like I said, I think that, femininity is something that is, posed as only Christian or Muslim or, just religious in general. And it doesn't have to be a religious thing to be true or, to not be true or anything. It can just be, like I said, the observation of what is. And it doesn't have to be controversial. It doesn't have to be taboo. We don't have to fight everything that is, I think humans kind of cycle itself is that, we want to overcome and control nature. And I think, through the cycle is what we realize is that we can never truly overcome or control nature. Since we are only part of nature, nature itself is stronger than us, right? So as much as we can, pour the concrete over the plants, right? Eventually those plants, the concrete ruptures and the plants come through and, the cement breaks down and things like that. Just keeping that in mind, like I said, that, we may be able to suppress it for a time, but nature will always prevail. I want to give a little food for thought, something for you guys to chew on after this video, and it's the image of the yin yang. And you can see here that on one side you have the dark, majority, which is the feminine or yin, and then you have the white side, which is the masculine or yang, right? So together, right, you have the male and the female, right? So when you go ahead and take a look at the female, right, yin, you see a dot of the white in the female, and in the male you see a dot of the female or yin. I'm gonna bring you a little full circle to the beginning of the video of, what is balance? We keep saying, women keep saying, we need to balance the masculine and we need to balance the femininity. But I want to pose the question, is that balance 50-50? What percentage of the female side does the yang take up in the dot? Would you say the dot is about 10, maybe 15% of the female side? Or would you say that the dot is half the size of the white female side. When we speak about balance or harmony and what nature can show us from that is, according to the yin yang symbol, is that, the female isn't 50% feminine and 50% masculine. It's mostly feminine or yin with a little bit of yang, right? And vice versa. Balance isn't necessarily 50-50, but it is balance in terms of who you are. I just really want you to observe this and reflect on yourself. Have I been displaying more masculine traits overall or more feminine yin traits overall? In my relationships, in my activities and actions and behaviors and thoughts, have I been displaying more yang, aggressive, forward-moving, controlling, or have I been displaying more yin of being reflective and receptive and submitting kind of trait? So I encourage you to just kind of play around and think about this concept. Maybe if you find that you have been acting more than 10 to 15% masculine, to maybe dial back some of the yang qualities that you've been displaying and leave that room open for more yin or feminine traits to take hold and kind of see what happens. I think so often that women are kind of forced in a way to take on these yang traits, even if they don't necessarily want to, just because that's what is expected of us in our society, or even, what's applauded and what's encouraged. Like I said, higher education, careers, and doing something. One common complaint that I hear from women is, I really wanted him to, step up and be a man, or to be able to, match my energy. And again, the problem that we see with this is that, there's no equal, identical matching in the yin and yang. So as much masculine space as there has to be a equal and identical matching of yin or feminine, right, in the yin yang. There's only so much masculine space available, and there can't be 200%. You can't have two 100 masculine yang people and fit them into the yin yang. Like that's just not how it works. And it's the same thing in relationships. You can't have two very yang people in a relationship. I mean, it would be like burning a city down. What I see is that, we have a very masculine woman, and she says, yeah, I want to go get her. I want someone who is, doing this and doing that and is doing things with his life and da-da-da. And she, is the same way. She has a career, she makes money, she does all these things, right? But this is what people don't understand, is there has to be an equal opposite. So as masculine as she is, the man then has to be equally as feminine as she is masculine, right, in order to give that balance. I find very often men don't want to be yin. They don't want to be feminine. And so that's kind of when the issues or, tension and disharmony arises, because many times men will refuse to play that, fit in that feminine role or mold, and the women, they are very masculine and they're kind of set in their ways and they're not budging. And so, like I said, when we get a lot of disharmony and issues, it can really cause a lot of stress in a relationship. Like I said, it just comes down to that you can't match my masculine energy because you can't have 200% masculine energies. Like, I'm totally not judging, I'm not throwing shade. I have not always been a very, yin or feminine woman myself. Many of us were not raised that way. We were not encouraged to be that way. We didn't have those types of role models or relationships modeled for us. So, that's not something that necessarily comes natural to people all the time, especially today. But when I started learning about yin and yang and Chinese medicine, I may have been a little bit in denial, but, I'm kind of skeptical, and I really wanted to challenge these ideas and see if, this was true. Just by observing, right, I noticed that maybe I was demonstrating more yang or masculine dynamic into my marriage. I mean, to be honest, today it's like I said before, it's like, who wants to be in? Who wants to be weak? Nobody really wants to be that today. And I didn't really understand the value in it at the time. But I decided to give it a chance and, really kind of took on more of the feminine, yin, receptive role and trying to tone down some of my maybe more yang, controlling traits. And I can really say that my marriage has changed the dynamic, and it is so much more harmonious, and I feel so much more fulfilled. And, it's a big reason why I have been speaking, less publicly about this over the years, but, kind of why I decided to take that step out now and even start having these conversations, because I'm really seeing that it's becoming a conversation that is only becoming more and more important to have as our society kind of goes off the rails here. And Chinese medicine itself has really challenged me in a positive way. And, I hope that some of you, even if you're not receptive to some of these ideas today, and like I said, if you would have told me these things 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I would not have accepted them either. But just by, probably time and maturity, and also just like experience of, being that wife, being that mother, and staying home, and really listening to myself and my own direct experience, peeling back the layers of what is expected of us, right? By our families, our communities, and our society. It can be like a really easy, simple start, and it's not something, you have to declare or make a proclamation about, I'm going to be more feminine, or I'm going to be more yin. It can be really just a slow, gradual process of, normally when you would speak out and say your opinion and really fight for your side in something, just kind of let them make the decisions. Let them, steer the ship. And I really encourage, though, that if you're going to give this a try, give it at least 1 to 3 months, because I think in the beginning it's a bit of a challenge, to be honest. It's a challenge in today's world to be yin and to find that role. And it takes time to also adjust and to see yin demonstrated in different people in different ways, and to learn, once you're more cognizant of it, you're able to appreciate it more, I think. There's many times in my life where I have met very yin females, and just being where I was at that time in my life, I wasn't receptive. I wasn't able to understand or appreciate or take in what yin had to offer at that time. And, I've only been able to reflect on it as I've gotten older, and been, wow, like a lot more appreciative and grateful, and can see the value in it. So it's not an overnight process by any means. Trying to be, for your husband, more of that soft, safe space to land, and, for them to recharge and rejuvenate, and to just receive really what your husband has to offer. I think it can really change a lot of marriages in a very positive way. In my experience, having firsthand experience, direct experience is something I talk about all the time in real life and on my channel, is really the way to go. Just be open-minded, and if you don't believe these types of things, and you don't think this way, then be skeptical. Try it, challenge it. Act as feminine or yin as you want, and there's so many different ways to display that. And it's not, always this like, stupid airhead girly pink and dresses kind of thing. Like I said, it's also about just being supportive and being receptive and reflective and intuitive. So for those of you who made it to the very end of this, thank you. I really want to get some feedback, but I wanted it to be like kind of the whole well-rounded story of today's talk, because a lot of these things, like I said, they have negative connotations, and it can be twisted the wrong way, and it's not really a true discussion, and it just becomes this political thing, and it's really ugly, and it doesn't have to be. So if you have any reflections or thoughts or experiences about your own conduct and femininity, or yin and yang, I would love to hear about it. If this content was able to maybe give you a different perspective, or gave you something more to think about, go ahead and like this video and let me know below in the comments. That way I can continue putting out thought-provoking, interesting content for you all. See you next time.